to you, Matthew.
Hello, Claire.
And you're going to start us off with attempts to boost trade between the US and Europe, and it could be facing some problems.
Yes, that's right. Now, these are talks on liberalising trade between the two economies, designed to boost trade between them, as you say, which are due to get their formal start next week. But there is a bit of a problem. That is that France in particular is insisting that cultural industries, audiovisual, film, TV, are left out of any discussions. It wants to protect what's known as its cultural exception. Well, Kyle Brown has more.
Actress Bérénice Bejo and director Costa Gavras, who is ambassador for cinema to the European Commission, fear that French cinema will be exposed to international markets without state protection. In negotiations leading to what could be the biggest bilateral trade agreement ever, the French government has signaled it intends to set aside cultural products from the talks. If France gets its way, its subsidies to the arts would be allowed as exceptions to any future agreement.
France prides itself in defending the cultural exception, even if it stands alone.
France is expected to go as far as to use a veto if the United States insists on including cultural products in any possible agreement.
Let's not start carving out exceptions to the negotiation before we even start. And we have not started yet. It's important that the negotiators come to the table with the flexibility to deal with these difficult, politically sensitive issues and come up with creative, innovative solutions.
President of the European Commission, Manuel Barroso, tried to narrow the gap by encouraging an agreement between the world's two biggest economies, even if it means making an exception for the arts. Negotiations begin on Friday.
And staying in France, reform of pensions will be in the spotlight this Friday.
Yes, that's right. The French pension system has a growing deficit set to hit to 20 billion euros by 2020, in fact. And one of the problems is that French people tend to retire relatively early. The average is 57 in the public sector and 61 and a half in the private sector. And if you look at how that compares with the OECD average for men and for women, it's more like 63. Obviously, that makes things a bit more expensive.
And what's likely to be announced today then? Yes,
well, that's right. Today, later this Friday, a government commission will be reporting to the Prime Minister with a range of proposals that they can then consider. Now, one of those, for example, is increasing the number of years that people need to work from 41 and a half years to 43 or 44 to qualify for a full pension. One of the other measures is likely to be bridging the gap between the more generous public sector pensions, between those and the private sector pensions.
Retirement at 57, it seems such a pipe dream to you and I think, Matthew. How are the markets looking this Friday?
Markets are looking much better than they were on Thursday, at least in Asia. Remember, they were all falling back on Thursday, but they're in the green this Friday, moving up. And, well, this time last week, in fact, Japanese investors didn't appear to be overly impressed with the most recent proposals from the Prime Minister there to boost the economy. Now, his cabinet gave its approval earlier today. Now, those measures include things such as boosting private investment, getting more women as well into the workforce. Well, the Prime Minister, we can see there, Shinzo Abe, said that sticking to those policies now was essential.
In terms of growth, such as economic growth, production and consumption, it's clear there's been improvement in the real economy. It's important to continue with the policies that we've implemented without changing course.
And an important takeoff for Airbus this Friday.
That's right, and we'll be keeping an eye on this here on France 24. Around 10 o'clock local time here in France, the Airbus A350 will make its maiden flight. That's a digitised image, by the way, but take off from Toulouse. Now, this is an important competitor to the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, so Airbus putting a lot of faith in this. They've already taken 600 orders for the aircraft before it's even take off, slightly behind what Boeing's doing there with its Dreamliner.
And you'll be following that, of course, throughout the day, Matthew. Thank you very much for your roundup of the business news. Now it's time for the latest on what's happening in cyberspace. Our web news starts with an online campaign to convince Facebook to rethink its policy on censoring naked photos.